Namaste, everyone. Welcome and welcome. Thank you all and line. We are so happy to have you here. Let us begin with the chant. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Peace Peace Peace. So welcome and blessed Navaratri to everyone. It's a beautiful time of cleansing, and they say it's especially an auspicious time for sadhana, for spiritual effort. So this is a wonderful time for us to do everything we can and then become purified. Usually if there's certain things that are followed, diet, like light diet and this, like not eating certain things, of course, that depends on the individual and the tradition and all these types of things. But even if you don't do anything outwardly, you can really go and release all the things that aren't necessary in our worries and take a light mental diet to get rid of all, because there's a lot of things going on in our world. I think they can concern different people in different ways, right? Whether you're on whatever side you're on, it seems like everybody's on a side. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Navaratri, the nights of the Devi. And the Devi, of course, is all of creation, light and shadow as well. And all of learning, all of the ultimate sacrifice, self-sacrifice to the Devi, which we have in Ma Durga. For our tradition, we do a Ma Durga chant. But the Devi, Nava, nine nights of the Devi. So we really, the culmination is the realization of the self, of who we are. And that blends a little bit into the topic. And I don't know why this popped into my head for the topic for this talk, but truth as sadhana is the idea that came to mind. And so I got a chance to research what different sources say about truth. And it's really interesting because one of the things that really encouraged me or set me on this direction of the idea of truth for this topic was, I know a lot of people from so many different viewpoints in my life. And some people are very, very strongly about this way, and some people are very strongly about this way. And it's always interesting to me that a lot of us have our own truths. And we really believe to our core that that's the truth. And it seemed to me that if there was really a truth, if in fact that was a truth, there would be no conflict in any worlds, because everybody would understand the truth, and it would be obvious then on what you should do according to that truth, right? So there must be a complete misunderstanding of truth, and so that there's a self illusion, so to speak, so that everybody has their own ideas of truth. And so I thought, well, what does the authorities say? What is truth, first of all, and I'll read from you from some of the different divine sources, as far as I see, about what they say truth is. And then more importantly, it is how can we ourselves really understand and absorb that truth and really see for ourselves what is truth. It's a personal journey. I thought, of course, we'd start with Thakur and Sri Ramakrishna from the Gospel, and this is Thakur. We'll start off with him, and we'll move ourselves to some other sources here. But this is Thakur talking in the Gospel with Girish Ghosh, and a few other of the devotees, and M, of course. So, Master, truthfulness in speech is the tapasya of the Kali Yuga. Now, Kali Yuga, for those of you who don't know, they have the different yugas. Kali is the lowest yuga, and there's some different calculations. It's I guess the orthodox way of looking at things is this is the lowest of all ages right now. And according to that theory, there's actually hundreds of thousands of years in Kali Yuga, which is rather depressing. There are other viewpoints or other newer kind of uh, readings of the scriptures that show a 24,000 year cycle, and that we are not in Kali Yuga. Actually, we've come out of the Kali Yuga, going into the Para Yuga, which is the age of reason and understanding the atom and all these types of things. So, but it doesn't matter, because what Thakur is saying here is very, very important. He says truthfulness of speech is a tapasya for the Kali Yuga. It is difficult to practice other austerities in this cycle. By adhering to truth, one attains God. Tulsidas said, truthfulness, obedience to God, and the regarding of others' wives as one's mother are the highest enjoyments. If one does not realize God by practicing them, then Tulsi is a liar. So this is he said, Kashyap Sen assumed his father's debts. Others would have repudiated them. I visited Devendra's Samaj at Jorashanko and found Keshav meditating on the dais. He was then a young man. I said to Mathur Babu, of all who are meditating here, this young man's float alone has sunk under the water. The fish is biting the hook. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna talks about. Truth is the tapasya of this age. And so what does that mean? What is it? There's a lot to unpack in that short statement. So truth is, it's not just telling the truth, but if you believe something is the truth, but it isn't, you think you're telling the truth, but in fact, it's actually not accurate. So how are you sure that you're actually adhering to the deepest aspect of practicing truth? And this is where some of the other talks here are a little bit helpful. We'll go next to Swamiji in his talks, Complete Works. And he mentions truth quite a few times. But instead of just talking about truth, he talks about what it is. And he talks about how we can actually start to really perceive truth. So this is kind of an interesting thing. Okay, let's see here. I marked it, but I didn't mark it off in the book here. Okay. Let's find out. Okay, he who hates none, who is the friend of all, who is merciful to all, who has nothing of his own, who is free from egotism, who is even-minded in pain and pleasure, who is forbearing, who is always satisfied, always in yoga, whose self has become controlled, whose will is firm, whose mind and intellect are given unto me. Such a one is my beloved Bhakta. This is from Swamiji is quoting from the Gita, Bhagavad Gita. From whom comes no disturbance, who cannot be disturbed by others, who is free from joy, anger, fear, and anxiety. Such a one is my beloved. He who does not depend on anything, who is pure and active, who does not care whether good comes or evil, and never becomes miserable, who has given up all efforts for himself, who is the same in praise or in blame, with a silent, thoughtful mind, blessed with that little what comes his way, homeless, for the whole world is his home, who is steady in his ideas. Such a one is my beloved Bhakta. Such a one becomes a true yogi. And so this is when he was talking about truth. He said the idea, therefore worship him. The idea of how to understand the truth, we start to see what they're talking about is purification, self-purification, being able to go beyond the sheaths. It's stated in the Yoga Sutras that the truth, whatever that is inside of us, is covered by various sheaths, coverings, layers of illusion, layers of separation from that truth. And the further we get away, the more sheaths there are. The further we get away, the more in touch with truth we are. And so how do we become more purified? And the Gita, of course, talks about that. And so Swamiji also mentions truth in a few other places, and in this particular, he said, you remember in the Old Testament where Moses was told, take off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place whereupon thou standest is holy ground. We must always approach the study of religion with that reverent attitude. He who comes with a pure heart and a reverent attitude, his heart will be open. The doors will open for him, and he will see the truth. If you come with intellect only, you can have a little intellectual gymnastics, intellectual theories, but not truth. Truth has such a face that anyone who sees that face becomes convinced. The sun does not require any torch to show it. The sun is self-effulgent. If truth requires evidence, what will evidence that evidence? If something is necessary as witness for truth, where is the witness for that witness? We must approach religion with reverence and with love, and our heart will stand up and say, this is truth and this is untruth. So this is very interesting. Swamiji really hits the nail on the head, and there's so much that is connected to this. He was saying that the truth is self-evident, it's self-effulgent, the truth is understood by a steady and controlled heart. The truth with the heart, not with the intellect. Now, a couple of weeks ago, when we did a class, we were talking about the different chakras and the different energy centers in the body. And it was stated in Swamiji's Raja Yoga by Maharaj also, that the beginning of spiritual life is when we enter the heart center. The three lower centers are our ego, our basic instinct for survival, our emotional, intellectual garbage, more or less. It's where our mind goes like a monkey eating a squirrel. And they're all mostly in our three lower chakras, so it's always bouncing back and forth. And the one at the solar plexus is the emotional energies. So that's just why a lot of people get very emotional and they have these swaying emotions. If we're caught down there, there's really no chance, as Swamiji points out here, to really be still and be aware of self-evident truth. And therefore, it's easy to become confused. It's easy to take falseness for truth and untruth for truth, as Swamiji points out. So the idea becomes a little clearer. Then how do we get to that state where we feel and come to the presence of the heart center, the heart, and then that becomes our perception of truth. This is really to what yoga is talking about. And it's so beautiful because it gives us a chance to a way out, you know. Of course, certain religions say you have to believe this or that or the other thing, but that's no guarantee, as we see very clearly, that people are getting into the heart, because you see it in their actions, that some people can be, in the name of religion, some of the most horrible acts have ever been perpetrated in the world against other human beings. Misunderstanding, because they were caught up without going into the heart. So the heart seems to be very, very key. I'll read one more thing that Swamiji says. Okay. The Upanishads believe that, but they have a higher standard too. On the one hand, they do not want to overthrow the Vedas. On the other, they see the animal sacrifices and priests stealing everybody's money. But in the psychology, they are all alike. All the differences that have been in philosophy regarding the nature of the soul, has it a body or a mind? And is the mind only a bundle of nerves? The motor nerves and the sensory nerves, psychology, they all take for granted, is a perfect science. There cannot be any difference here. All the fight has been regarding philosophy, the nature of the soul, the God, and all of that. And he talks about, and you know, the idea of using your intellect to try to find in your religion justification of your own point of view. And that's what he's talking about, is that the priests in India, they have, you know, there's sometimes a difference between the holy men and the priests in India. Although I know a lot of wonderful priests in India. But you can certainly use you can certainly use religion as a justification for. So, how do you purify your mind? How do you purify yourself to be able to really be a receptacle and a receiver of truth? So we'll get into a few other points of view, and this is from Paramahansa Yogananda, and this is kind of interesting, different points of view. Let's see, I've got to find these. It would have been a little easier if we would have found, if I would have written it on these books. But so this is very, very interesting. So it says the 6 orthodox Veda-based systems are Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta, Mimamsa, Nisaya. I won't read them all. Will delight in the subtleties of these. So sorry. Let's see. Okay, so this is kind of interesting, and I thought this was something that kind of popped out. The Hindu scriptures declare that those who habitually speak the truth develop the power of materializing their words. What commands they utter from the heart come to pass. Because the world's truth, all scriptures extol it as a virtue by which man may attune his life with the infinite. Mahatma Gandhi often said, "Truth is God." His lifelong striving was for perfect truth in thought, speech, and act. Throughout the ages, the ideal of Satya, truth, has permeated Hindu society. Marco Polo tells us that the Brahmins would not utter a lie for anything on earth, even with threat of death. And one of the things I was going to say too is that the book, the biography written by Mahatma Gandhi was Experiments in Truth, the name of his book. So this is just permeated throughout the scriptures and the traditions of India. One of the things that I thought was very, very interesting that popped up, my experiments with truth, was this part. We think about the truth. It came up in the Christian Bible too, in a very interesting way. There was actually a question posed in the Bible called "What is truth?" And guess who? Herod asked Jesus after he was going to condemn him to death, "What is truth?" That was what he wanted to know. And Jesus was, of course, silent, because truth can't be explained by intellect truth has to be exposed by a surrendered heart, and a heart that is purified. So this is kind of an interesting conundrum, and so how do we come out of the idea of truth? What do we do to purify the heart? And that's all of spiritual exercise, if you think about it. First of all, the truth is already inside of each individual. It doesn't have to be created. It has to be uncovered. It doesn't have to be learned or brought in from outside. It has to be uncovered by a pure heart. And I also thought it would be nice to read you guys from Anandamoy Ma's teachings on truth and truthfulness. So Anandamoy Ma, she emphasizes that truthfulness in speech and conduct is the foundation for spiritual progress and the attainment of God. She states that God is truth, and that a life of truth, purity, and holiness naturally leads to supreme joy. To perceive truth, one must cultivate a spiritual atmosphere, maintain vigilance, cast off distractions, and depend on God in all circumstances, allowing the veil of ignorance to be torn away to reveal the one truth. And then she also, there is actually I pulled this off of the internet. I just typed in Anandamoy Ma's teachings on truth. It says key aspects of Anandamoy Ma's teachings of truth. Kind of nice what the internet can pop up. She says truthfulness as a duty, and that's what we're talking about, truth, sadhana. Anandamoy Ma stressed that it is a spiritual duty to be truthful in every way, as God is truth itself. The path to joy. She taught that a truthful, pure, and holy life leads to supreme joy, while deceit and secrecy cause misery. Spiritual atmosphere. To progress spiritually, seekers must create a spiritual atmosphere by being intent on truthfulness, patience, and dependence on God. The veil of ignorance. The veil of ignorance, formed by past impressions and dispositions, obscures true nature. Spiritual practices and a truthful life help to lift this veil, revealing the oneness of existence. Obstacles as opportunities. Experiencing hardships and obstacles on the spiritual path is natural and helps to cultivate the patience and surrender needed to attain truth. This is quite interesting. Purity and vigilance. A key requirement for spiritual progress is purity of being and constant vigilance to perceive the subtle touches of the divine. One truth. She explained that the ultimate truth is one and singular, where the seer, the seen, and the act of seeing become one, dispelling the illusion of multiplicity. So it seems like there's this beautiful spiraling path when you start the idea of truth and what is truth. And at first, the first step is to be able to go from these lower centers of thought and justification and rationalization and thinking to the heart, because the heart has its own logic. The heart understands and feels. They say, every man has a conscience, and the divine is in that conscience. And when you're doing wrong, sometimes you can close out the conscience to justify yourself. But if you really are still, you feel in the heart what is right and what is wrong. So to get to the heart is really the first step, as what they're describing. So if you think about the ideal of bhakti yoga, where you're if you have an ishta or divine image of God and its purity and its pure brilliance, the more pure your love for that ishta can become, and the more pure sattvic the bhakti is, then it's easy to be able to merge into that heart center and to go into truth. Because there you go beyond all thinking and thought and rationalization. So bhakti is a very simple path, as Sri Ramakrishna said to us. It's a very simple path to the divine. It doesn't require so much, but it is difficult in this. Bhakti can be impure also. You can want God, especially in the beginning, because you need something, right? I love God, I need this, I want that. You have a laundry list of things. If you met God, you would have all these things you would ask for, right? That's the beginning stages of bhakti. As bhakti unfolds, then the pure devotee, they become so surrendered to that divinity, and they realize that flow of energy, that consciousness, that beautiful being that they're in love with, will bring them everything they need and beyond their understanding. Because the mind is a small thing in the beginning. It's very, very doesn't comprehend very much, and it has its own limitations very easily. So when you can go beyond the mind, there's so much that could be brought into your life if you just surrender and don't restrict what you want by what you think you need, or this is the right thing, this is what I think I want. So when you surrender that and you become desireless, then all the highest good can come to us, because that is now you're surrendered to the higher divine understanding, the higher divine energies to be able to bring you into understanding this truth. So bhakti yoga is wonderful. Raja Yoga, meditation, as Swamiji talked about and Paramahansaji talks about a lot in his writings. This is also wonderful because sort of those who don't have a particular emotional bent, you have to have a path too. And so being able to still the mind and get into peace in the beginning is a wonderful beginning step. And we'll do a meditation that we usually do at the end of this. That is Swami Sarvapriyanandaji talks about from Kashmiri Shaivism. But it's a wonderful start so that you can become calm and still. And then, chanting, chanting is a wonderful way of being able to bring some devotion even into a meditation. So a lot of times before people meditate, they'll chant. Or a group meditations, they'll have some form of chanting to get us away from the worldly thoughts that are going on, away from our emotions, and into that heart center where those things can start being revealed. So this is beautiful. If you can get the mind still and calm, again, that energy can go from the lower centers up to the heart center, and you can start feeling peace at first. Then they say the next is joy, love and joy, deeper, deeper joy. And now you start merging into this inner system, inner sanctum of the heart. And you know, it's interesting because there's also the tradition in Ramana Maharshi and all these guys. We're talking about the heart is actually where the self is seated. So when we're talking about truth in ultimate sense, now we're going to be in a sphere where Sarvaprinandaji is a wonderful resource to listen to him speak. What is the ultimate truth? Are we real? Is any of this real? All these horrible things that go on in this world to purify us, to turn us inward, to do all these things, in a real ultimate sense, is it real? One thing I kind of struck me was that all the things that I used to think were horrible 10 years ago or 20 years ago no longer exist in most cases. So this is kind of an interesting thing that, yeah, if you can let go of any attachment or reaction to the dynamics of the world, then how real is it? Because if you can forget, if something happened in the past and you can leave it there in the past and you don't bring it into the future, does it still exist for you? No, it's gone. So the world is just like a streaming river. It's never the same. It's always something new and different. And being attached to any part of it is the problem. So what is this truth that they're saying? You know, when Pilate says, what is truth? What is he really asking? And what is the real answer? So think about if we start to relieve the sheaths of ignorance and encumber us, and we get lower, more and more to this essence of whatever there is, what is left? Is there anything left? Of course, Sri Ramana talks about, who am I? Think about the I. Go into that awareness of I. And all of the best. Even Bhakti Yoga does the same thing as Thakur talks about. Because the more you become pure in your love, the less of you is there. You don't have any desires. You don't have any will or wishes. You just merge into that love and that being. So you kind of disappear, and the Ishta is all that exists. That same thing happens, of course, in Jnana Yoga, where the more that you are aware of the essence of what your core reality is, what does your consciousness rest on? What is this sense of I? The first illusion is I, is what Ramana says. The I before Om. Om is the creation. He says, I exist before Om. This is very profound. So to get back into that, whatever is, that truth, we have to go and find, he says, just see, to whom is this occurring? To whom are you experiencing all these things? Whom thinks there is as an I? Is there really such a thing as an I? Is there such a thing as this individual I? What does it rest on? If you're a Jnani, this is the way to unravel. For a Bhakta, you know, Thakur says that's not their path. Their path is to totally surrender in love to the divine. So this is the same way. It comes to the same place, it seems to me, that you finally turn within until there is nothing there but that one being. And the reality is, when you turn within, they say, is that the core of our own essence is that one being. That's pure truth. It's the only way out of misery, to find the absolute identity of what it is that is inside of us. And that is the good news, or the great idea of what is liberating and what is liberation, is that there is only that essence. There isn't anything else. And so all the rest of this is just, it's a real dream. And then they say, what Thakur said, something really beautiful, and Swami Meditananda is coming, so you can talk to him about this. Once that's realized, then the Vijnani can see the world again as a play of Brahman. Everything is that beautiful joy in Brahman. So then there is no duality in that sense where there's an illusion or something outside or anything. It's all Brahman. It's a play of Brahman. In the south, they have a dancing Shiva. Here we have our Shiva of infinity, right? In the south, they have a dancing Shiva, just like Vijnana, like what Thakur describes. The Vijnani is the one who actually is still in this world and acting, the world, the universe works through them, but they see Brahman in everything. So this is when we're talking about the truth. So when Pilate asks Jesus, what is truth? How could you understand why Jesus was silent? For somebody of that understanding level, there's no answer intellectually that could possibly satisfy them. That's why there's not courses in there are lots of courses in self-realization, but they're generally fundamental things that get you preliminarily ready. Really, when, as Swami Sarvapriyanandaji said, there are some prerequisites for those who are prepared to dive into that one jnani, the pure jnana, the pure idea of the self. And so there's always these qualifications that are in the scriptures for those who are accepted as disciples into that path. It's kind of cute when Sri Ramakrishna was talking to who was the one who had he was the one who was talking to the queen and all that. My brain is a little bit soggy right now. But he said, if I go any further, you won't be able to keep your organization together. And he said, oh, no, stop here, because he was a teacher, he was a spiritual teacher, and he had this huge organization. He said, if I go further, then you won't be able to keep an organization. You won't be able to do any of these things. He said, forgot it. Yeah, stop. So forgive me for my brain melting. I could go and look for the name. I'm sure it'll come to me when I'm done with talking. So this is the idea that purification of the heart. So how can we apply this to the world's problems that's going on right now? Is it possible to really reach out to somebody intellectually and to engage them to fix it? I really don't think so, because everybody's going to reinforce their own ideas and their own truths, and they're going to make that even more and more a battle cry. I think the only way to really get to that beings is through the heart, is through that pure love. It's action. It's the action, as Sri Ramakrishna Swamiji said, that was why he was a ball of action. He could have been a jnani and samadhi in the caves, but he was not. He served mankind as God. And I think this is the only way that anything can possibly be rectified. So any kind of lectures or any kind of trying to bring somebody to your point of view. But I think what I think is the best thing for us to really take these teachings of the great ones, like Swamiji suggests, is that we really reach out and serve our fellow man selflessly, without any thinking of getting any kind of return, even their gratitude, or even their enlightenment, or even their changing, or even leave world peace to the Divine Mother and let her use you as she will through that heart center. So this is a perilous time in the world for sure. But I think the idea is that those jnanis who really have absorbed the truth have found ultimate peace and joy here in this body. If you look at any of the great ones, they say Sri Ramakrishna was always in bliss, even on his deathbed. Even as cancer was eating him up. That's actually said, oh, I see you're in bliss even though you're sitting there suffering. He goes, oh, the rascal found me out. So, Ramana Maharshi, same thing. The world wars were going around him, everything was going around him, and he was constantly in this silence of samadhi and bliss. And then, of course, when he was dying, horrible cancer for him. I think they take on the sins the karma of a lot of their devotees. And so they just use their body that way because they don't have any other use for it. So the same thing with Sri Krishna. That wasn't a suffering for their own purposes. That was a suffering. That was their ability to use the body as a alleviation of karma. So, but we can be enjoyed even with all the craziness. We can understand that, as Ramana said, there are no others. If we think there's other beings and they're causing problems or giving us benefits or this and that, he said there are no others. Somebody asked him, how can we help other people? He said there are no others. Just the same as Swamiji says, serve God and man. Not seeing other men or beings that you're trying to help these poor lowly people, but see them as God and just worship God that way. And that brings everything into that one consciousness. So this is it. We don't want to get too deep in this intellectual part. So I thought maybe we could chant a little bit, and then we'll just do a little meditation. So in Navaratri, we the 9 days of the Devi, we chant Divine Mother Durga's name, Jai Shri Durga. We're going to chant that a little bit today because we're, and by the way, all of the members of the Vedanta Society in Las Vegas here, let us know what chants you're going to do these next 9 days, how you're going to, how many chants you're going to do and what you end up doing, so we can report that to Sarvadevanandaji's. So we sent out an email for you. So we'll chant Om Aim Jai Shri Durga. The first thing we'll do is we'll do Ma Durga chant for a little while, Jai Shri Durga, because we're supposed to bring that chanting into our group. And then we'll go to all the Devis. We'll do Jai Ma Kali, Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Lakshmi, Jai Ma Saraswati, and we'll chant all of the Devis. So we'll start Navaratri off with a bang, as they say. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for being online. And next week we'll have another class on Sunday, and then we have Swami Atmavidyanandaji here on the 1st, on Wednesday. So you'll all be getting emails on all of those things. So we'll do a little bit chanting to the Devi, and then what we'll do too is we'll just do a short meditation afterwards. And you can do any of the practices you wish. If you want to do something that's really neat to allow us to transcend the emotions of the mind and the thoughts and going into that stillness of peace, the meditation that Swami Sarvapriyanandaji talks about is Soham, and that is a breathing. So you're just watching the breath come in and out. When it comes in, you chant mentally So. When it stops, you just don't do anything. And when it goes out by itself, hum, so hum, so hum. What was really key to doing this properly is that you don't control the breath. It's like somebody else is breathing and you're observing it. And you just chant so hum. So you just disassociate with anything. If there's thoughts that come, just let them come and go. Just like in a fork of water going through a fork. You don't hold on to any thoughts or feelings or emotions. And just always come back to the breath. So hum, so hum, so hum. And you'll get to that place of peace. It's a really beautiful practice and allows us something practical we can do too. Of course, you can also do any chanted mantras that were initiated into or some of your lineages or your ishtas. So let's chant with this Om Aim Jai Shri Durga. Get into the heart. Oops, it's been a while since I played this. Good golly. I guess I should have practiced a little bit. Sorry, guys. So bad. I'm so sorry about that. You should be able to do this. Jai Shri Durga Namaha. Jai Shri Durga Jai Shri Durga, 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 Om Jai Mata Jai Shri Durga Jai Shri Durga Jai Shri Durga, Jai Shri Durga, Jai Shri Durga, Saraswati Namaha. Saraswati, 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 We'll just do a short meditation. Remember that if you want to first start with the Soham, you want to breathe in just through the nose, double inhalation, hold it, and then exhale through the mouth. We'll do that a couple of times, and then after that last exhalation, just watch the breath come in and out, or you can do any other technique of meditation that you have in your lineage. Let's try that. Inhale. Exhale. Once more, inhale. Hold. Exhale. One more time, inhale. Hold. Exhale. And now just, when the breath comes in of its own accord, mentally chant so, and it goes out, hum, so, I be. Shri Durga to everyone. Blessed Navaratri. Thank you all for joining us. And then next week, we'll have events on Saturday and Sunday. So I'll just send out the schedule and we'll get ready for Swami Abhavidyanandaji on the 1st of October. Thank you all. Jai Ma.